Now that I've taken down Elatrion and Fatalis, I'm able to make a fully completed Elder Dragon tier list. This list is a combination of how awesome the monster is and how awesome the hunt with it is. Here we go. Zora Magdaros. The first time I saw Zora, I was sold on Monster Hunter. I was shocked that I got to fight an island-sized monster. That's just insane. And then I got into the hunt with it, and I was pretty unimpressed. You don't really fight this thing, just a few magma spikes on its back. Then you launch cannonballs at it for too long until it dies. I think it was a worthy risk to take to have this be a monster you can run around on like a region in the game, but also be a living, breathing creature. But it just wasn't pulled off very well. The monster looks like a walking chair, obviously designed for the player to run around on first and then the monster after. Maybe if they had started with a sweet monster design and then added ways for the player to run around on top of it, it would have been pulled off better. This was a monster I was pumped for, but every time I gotta go through this hunt for my repeat plays of the story, I strap in for a long and boring quest. F rank. Nergigante. Nergigante is awesome. What a great design for a monster. A big spiky hedgehog dragon who throws its weight around. I really like the initial challenge Nergigante brings the first time you hunt it. He's fast, he fights on the ground for the most part, which makes the hunts against it satisfying, and he really hurts, which is a great thing for the flagship monster. Nergigante's roar is one of my favorites in the game. It fits his Brutus nature very well, and his spiky design is well done. I feel like a lot of other Elder Dragons are too stylized. They don't feel real anymore. Think of Valhazak, for example, with the veil over its face. It's just not realistic. Nergigante treads the line of realistic and fantasy really well. I like Nergigante every time I have to go hunt it. It's an awesome monster and an awesome design. A rank. Valhazak and Black Veil Valhazak. I'm gonna put these two together as they're essentially the same monster. Valhazak is such a goofy monster. It's the slowest Elder Dragon by quite a bit. The hunt against it isn't that big of a deal, except for the big gimmick it uses against you of cutting your max HP in half. This will catch you off guard at first, but you just gotta pop a Nullberry to get your max health back up, then eat a Mandragora for all my Mushromancer addicts out there, and then you got nothing to worry about. After that, the hunt's a breeze. And because of this, and the silly design of Valhazak in general, I'm just not a big fan. Sure, a Necro Dragon is cool in theory, but the veil over the face that's supposed to be flesh is just too over the top for me. The hunt is mostly a drag, and only becomes annoying instead of more fun, as the Effluvium buildup isn't that fun of a mechanic. C rank. Kushala Daora. This big green turd. I have nothing nice to say about this Elder Dragon. Kushala Daora, even with its cool design, is my #1 most hated monster in the game. Want to get close to this thing? It'll just fly up in the air surrounded by a tornado. Want to clutch claw onto it to knock it out of the air? Dash attack time. Alright, I'll stand back and wait. Nope, huge tornado to the face. And when it's finally on the ground and you get a chance to rack up some damage, wind pressure. Seriously, the most frustrating hunt in the game. And it's only frustrating because of how much you get knocked around through the hunt. High rank Kushala Daora isn't that big of a deal because you can flash pot it every time it flies, but you don't get that benefit in master rank against this thing. May you never have to hunt this thing again. F rank. Teostra. First off, making a Manicore an Elder Dragon is really cool. Teostra has a great and unique design. Not only is it a fire-breathing, lion-headed dragon, but as it charges up, it unloads a bunch of explosions and novas to really lay on the damage. The hunt against Teostra isn't a huge deal. You just stand next to its neck and kind of go to town on it. But if you're not careful, it'll blow you up. In Master Rank, the galloping attack is probably the worst one to deal with, but that's true of basically every monster in the game. The hunt with Teostra is enjoyable, the design is awesome and unique, and they only made it cooler when it could combo up with Lunastra for some big duo damage. Overall, great monster and a great hunt. A rank. Lunastra. Ah yes, Teostra's girlfriend, and she's a doozy. I have high praise for Teostra, as you just heard, and I have a lot of the same thoughts about Lunastra, except for the hunt against it. Now that I've played against Tempered Lunastra in Master Rank, I can assure you that this Elder Dragon is a huge pain in the pooter. Don't get me wrong, the hunt looks awesome with fire flying everywhere and novas bursting all over the place, but it does not feel good at all. This monster does so much damage, and you get knocked around just enough that you can't respond to the damage it deals very well. I think the main issue against Lunastra is that you can't avoid her damage very well, and it does a lot of damage with every hit. There's pools of fire everywhere, it does burst damage around it, and it has quick attacks with its paws when you get close to it. It's a very challenging monster to take down, but the design is top rate. B rank. Curran. What's a horse doing in Monster Hunter? I think Curran is a good example of a great Elder Dragon hunt with only one flaw: the size of the monster. Curran does everything I'd love to see a proper sized Elder Dragon do. It's quick, it hurts, it's very lightning themed in a very good way with all the bolts flying all over the place. I enjoy every aspect of the hunt and design, except that it's smaller than a Kuluyaku. And my pea-sized brain has a hard time hitting small, quick targets sometimes. I think overall, this is a perk to this monster, as it makes it a great challenge and a unique part of Monster Hunter. But whiffing attacks against it can get tiresome after a while. I haven't played through the game with the Greatsword yet, but I can't imagine how hard it's going to be to land a big hit against Curran when I get to that point. I had a hard enough time hitting it with the Charge Blade. Zinogre is a similar monster to Curran, and I think its design is really good compared to Curran. I'd love to see more thunder monsters in the game down the road. B rank. Behemoth. Nah. F rank. Xeno'jiiva. Despite Xeno'jiiva being a bit of a pushover for the final boss of the base game, I really like Xeno'jiiva. The arch-tempered version of it is real fun and poses a great challenge. The design is so neat. I love the blue color and the semi-transparent skin. It reminds me of those old Game Boys back in the day with the clear plastic shell. I really like how big it is too. It's menacing. And when you meet it, it's just a baby, but it's massive and it does big attacks. It's a great way to present an Elder Dragon and the big problem that needs to be solved. Unfortunately, Xeno'jiiva hasn't grown up enough to pose enough of a challenge despite its size. But eventually you get to hunt the adult version of Xeno'jiiva. We'll get to that later on in the tier list, and that hunt feels like the challenge we all wanted Xeno'jiiva to be. Decent. C rank. Namiel. Now here's an amazing Elder Dragon. A monster that didn't get enough attention. It only showed up in Iceborne, and it definitely needed to be around more. I love the color scheme and the mix of water and thunder damage. It puts up a great hunt even when it's out of its element. Underwater combat against Namiel next game? Maybe? This monster even fades in color as you continue to hunt it. The more water it spews around the map, the less color it shows, which is such a cool design. Not only are you breaking parts of this monster and severing its tail if you want, but you're seeing the life drain out of it as you go. Man, this feels really heavy now. Oh well. The hunt with it is also amazing. It drops traps around the field in the form of pools of water that will eventually slow your movement or trip you as it moves the water around through the hunt. And after a while, it charges up its thunder attack and puts the damage on you pretty quickly. Can't be lazy playing against Namiel. It'll one-shot you in the blink of an eye if you aren't ready for it. Namiel is one of the best monsters in Monster Hunter World. Easy S rank. Kulve Taroth. Alright, let me get this one out of the way. There's a lot of love for Kulve Taroth out there, and I just don't get it. I'm not a big fan, unfortunately. I don't like the siege with it, as chasing around the map and racing against the clock just isn't my jam. I think the ram's horns are really cool, but other than that, this monster looks like a large greyhound dog. That pointy nose and the gold attire just doesn't do it for me. It's just a little bit too goofy. Now, the theme of this dragon, with it being covered in the gold that it hoards, is pretty cool, and I can get behind that. I like that you beat this thing up for some awesome equipment, and it's a great draw for players to get into sieges and take it down. But outside of that, Kulve Taroth just isn't my cup of tea. I love the music for this hunt, though. B rank. Safi'jiiva. Hey look, Xeno'jiiva's all grown up, and it's not very happy to see you. I'm so glad we get to take down a classic red dragon with the Safi'jiiva siege. The only thing missing is the classic fire breath, but I'm okay with the lasers. They work really well. Every time I fight Safi'jiiva, I feel like I'm a part of a fantasy story fighting the dragon to save the princess. The dragon hurts and it hits quickly. It can fight multiple hunters at once, which is such a cool way to show its intelligence. And then there's the ultimate. Oh my goodness, it's so amazing. Safi'jiiva also has a great draw to hunt it a ton with its augmentable weapons. I enjoy the ability to customize a weapon with abilities and stats. It's a great addition to the game and keeps me coming back for more Safi'jiiva hunts. And I can't wait to see what more will come with the Jiiva line. I've made a bold prediction in my live streams that there will be another Jiiva monster in Monster Hunter Wilds, and it's going to be a black dragon with 5 heads. Let's see if I can predict that one correctly. The Safi'jiiva is a great Elder Dragon with a great hunt. It's a hunt I always look forward to when it's in rotation, and it looks like how I imagine dragons ought to look. S rank. Velkhana. Oh man, Velkhana is such a mixed bag for me, but in all the right ways. Every time I go up against Velkhana, still to this day, even hundreds of hours later, I'm nervous fighting it. Velkhana is so fast. It hits hard, and it takes a big chunk out of your stamina with the constant ice blight it puts on you. Velkhana is a great test of your hunting prowess, and when you get to take it down, it's such a relief. I feel like I'm on edge for the whole hunt against it, but I love the satisfaction of finishing a well-earned hunt with it. I think Velkhana is really well designed on the hunt side of things, and the looks of the monster itself. It's sleek and quick, and it owns the ice element very well with all of its attacks. A big blue dragon that breathes ice is par for the course from what we'd expect from Velkhana, but it was pulled off really well. I think it's always good game design to have a monster that players are nervous to hunt, but nervous because of how tough it is, not because it's annoying or has a bad mechanic. As tough as Velkhana is, I really think its attack patterns are fair and well done. I know what I'm getting hit by, and I don't feel frustrated by getting beat up by it. Great design and great hunt. A rank. Shara Ishbalda. I'm not sure what happened with Monster Hunter World and their monsters who are actually behind the flagship monsters in the story, but they just weren't done so well. Xeno'jiiva was really well designed, but the hunt was too easy. Shara Ishbalda is much more difficult and is a super cool monster, but the start of the hunt is just the worst thing they could have done for this hunt. I will say, the very start of the hunt is awesome when you go up against it for the first time. Having this ancient elder dragon encased in rock that you break free later on is really neat. The only problem I have with it is that when you go to hunt Shara Ishbalda again later, breaking it out of rock every time you hunt it is just a huge waste of time. It doesn't pose a challenge, it takes a bunch of extra time, and it doesn't really do much for you in the follow-up hunt against the freed Shara Ishbalda. If this got changed, I'd be a happy fan of Shara Ishbalda. But outside of this detail, Shara Ishbalda is really neat. The eyes are a little bit much, but it's cool that it exists. I think the control of wind and stone is really neat with this hunt. The invisible lasers are a great addition, and the ultimate is also amazing. And the design of the monster is very unique as well, and that's a big plus for me. I like seeing what Monster Hunter puts in front of you in a believable way, and Shara Ishbalda felt like a great final hunt for Iceborne. Once you get through the rock phase, the hunt is satisfying to finish. It feels epic throughout, and I love that you can bash this monster in the face enough to bust its skull open for a unique drop. That part is awesome, and I hope Monster Hunter does more like this down the road. I'm gonna give this a B rank literally because of the rock phase. Ruiner Nergigante. The Hedgehog Elder Dragon is back, but now he's really mad. I liked Nergigante already, but Ruiner Nergigante made the hunt even better. Ruiner Nergigante flies around to full-on tackle you like a huge linebacker from the NFL, but with wings. Then it throws its spikes all over like a pineapple. Like a pineapple. Then it throws its spikes all over the place like a porcupine and causes a bleed status on players, which really hurts because you got to keep moving against Ruiner Nergigante, which also causes you to take extra damage from the bleed. I only wish Ruiner Nergigante was available sooner in the game. You unlock it at Master Rank 99, which is much further into the progression than you think. You could take on the hardest hunts in the game way before then. Either way, this monster exists, and I'm really glad that it does. It's a really fun hunt. It hits really hard, but it feels awesome to dodge out of the way and break its horns off. There's so many attacks from Ruiner Nergigante that just look epic, and you get to be a part of it all. I really look forward to every hunt I get to do against it. S rank. Alatreon. And now we get to the last two monsters on the list, and they're a huge step up in difficulty. Alatreon is your introduction to insanely hard hunts to the point where you're crafting a completely new and constructed set of armor and weapons just to take this one monster down. And I think this is such great game design. I'm glad it's not like this for every monster, but I do love that Monster Hunter gets you into the think tank to figure out how to beat this super tough hunt with skills you may have never given a chance prior. The hunt against Alatreon is so difficult, and for the first 10 failed attempts against it, it feels demoralizing and insurmountable. But man, when you dig your heels in and keep going at it, change things up a bit with your build and learn how the hunt goes, the hunt against Alatreon becomes such an amazing experience. The first time I took Alatreon down was one of the most amazing feelings I've had in gaming, ever. And this is the sign of an amazingly well-designed hunt. And Alatreon looks epic too, so it's a well-designed monster overall. The big black dragon that shoots all the elements at you, it's a creature of legend and infamy, and it lives up to those claims. This is another dragon like Safi'jiiva that has the classic dragon look, and I'm such a fan of these classic dragon designs. Having the opportunity to take down a creature of legends is awesome, and I truly felt awesome taking Elatrion down. S rank. And last up is Fatalis, and man, this monster is insanely tough. It's a cool black dragon, and its long spaghetti neck is iconic, but man, it hits so hard. The build you need to take this thing down is so specific. There isn't much wiggle room for experimenting, and this might be the only reason I'm not a big fan of the Fatalis hunt. I like to try things out and see how it goes. In my hunts trying to figure out Fatalis, I had its moveset pretty much nailed down, but my build couldn't handle the 30-minute timer. I tried and tried to narrow things down, and I eventually got to a build that took down Fatalis, and lo and behold, it was pretty similar to what the meta of builds was. I hadn't watched any guides until the final hunt to see what my build needed, and I found out that I just needed some heavy artillery to utilize the cannons and the roaming ballista better. But otherwise, I had a build just like everyone else, and that's just too tight for me. I want the wiggle room to try new things. I don't mind that this exists in the game, and I'm really glad it's not the overwhelming majority of hunts, but it does put a damper on me wanting to go back to Fatalis in my free time. But outside of that, I think Fatalis is a great monster. It hits hard, which feels bad at the start, but once you start dodging everything and retaliating, it feels so good to know that you can conquer it. The whole music setup against Fatalis is so fitting, and it feels epic to get to the last couple minutes in the Fatalis hunt with that awesome Proof of the Hero music firing up. Fatalis was a great way to finish up the Iceborne quest lines, and I'm glad I got to experience it here. A rank. Boom, baby.